Greetings and Habari Zainu family. I'm coming today with a very urgent message that has to get out to you as soon as possible because it's been weighing on me and I've got to share this information. And that's because there's a global dynamic at play in our community and in the world at large today that's affecting all of us in our lives directly. And we've got to start recognizing it and addressing it as soon as possible. Some of us are still in the dark about what's really going on around the COVID-19 crisis. And we're thinking that the events are just randomly happening with no connection to each other. And that could be no further from the truth. I mean, there are definitely connections among and between all of the happenings that are going on globally. It's time for us to wake up, people. Some of you are going to be offended by what I'm about to say because it's hard for you to get up off of your preconceived notions of what's true and what's not true. And I get it. And others of you are going to be blown away, simply blown away by this information, hopefully in a good way, because it is going to be helpful. So if you'll just hear me out, and if you just allow me to share this vital information with you, I promise you, you will walk away with your eyes wide open, and some of you will even be transformed by what I'm about to share with you, because this is incumbent upon me. If I know something, I'm supposed to share it with others. So now that we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel concerning this crisis, and I do know for a fact we are, and some of the smoke has settled, we can get a better look at how much damage there is finally, and at the truth we can get a better look at also as it starts to emerge. And some of the dynamics that are at play here are those of the media. And what we're seeing now is just how much of the media reporting was hype and just how much of the supposed conspiracy theories and the so-called misinformation turned out to actually be true after all. So this should give you pause. Really? Well, what was all of that hype about that, ooh, conspiracy theories are out there? And there are wild conspiracy theories that are still floating out there. But your sound, common sense ones that have always been true are going to be true. And that's concerning natural immunity and all of those things. And yet they were considered conspiracy theories. Those never should have been called such. This is not to downplay, by the way, the seriousness of the virus, and regardless to how you think it originated, it is out there, and that's not the topic here, but it's to urge people to see things finally for what they really are concerning the handling of this pandemic. So hopefully this traumatic experience will help us not to be so quick to run with the first thing put out there by way of popularized media and government sanctioned information, jumping on bandwagon accusations and public shaming and unfounded censorship, all while letting our fears get the best of us. Hopefully, this will be a teaching moment for us to do our own due diligence in educating ourselves right up front about, and to be discerning about telling us what they're telling us to do and weighing that with what we already know to be true and the things they're telling us not to do. And instead of engaging in fear, to engage in reason and to follow the science from a variety of sources in the science and medical communities, and not just those of one man and just the government sanctioned health agencies. Again, we should consult all of the resources at our disposal, coming from your own physician and from other knowledgeable people and sources and resources. Listening to and trusting only one news source, mainstream media, for all of your information without also consulting reliable, independent news sources and scientific and medical journals that are not tied to big corporate or government interests is not only unwise, but dangerous. And you should already know that believing everything the government tells you and doing everything the government tells you to do without questioning it first is the very definition of a dictatorship. So, what causes this blind allegiance anyway, and this mass sheep herding mentality and the programming that drive the masses to behave in such predetermined and predictable ways? Well, the main ingredient and the driving force is fear. All throughout history, authority, whether it is a government, a religious sect, a political party, or a social organization, fear has been used as a tool to control the masses and to get them to conform and to comply with the program. When people are deathly afraid, they no longer think rationally. Common sense and one's better judgment and reasoning go straight out the window. People will latch on to the first thing that comes along that promises them protection against the perceived or real threat to their lives. They're willing to give up all of their freedoms and rights, many of them very, very often fought so strenuously for, and many having been sacrificed with life, with our lives, to obtain certain freedoms and rights, just to be saved from this enemy, whether it's real or contrived. They look at the government to rescue them, and any and everything from that point on that the authorities tell them is then literally seen as gospel, as fact. And they'll come to expect it, the people will, and even demand it at times. So before you just brush me off as some kind of paranoid conspiracy theorist spreading misinformation, let me assure you that what I'm sharing with you today is pure fact and science. But don't just take my word for it either. You must do your own research. Just listening to anyone who comes along without looking up what the so-called authority is on a topic or a certain subject and what they're telling you is what got us, especially us as Africans in America, into the predicament we're in right now, educationally, economically, and medically. The facts will allow you to see that those who have decided not to take the jab are doing so based on the science and are not endangering the health of others any more than those who have taken the jab are endangering the health of others. Because as we know, contracting and transmitting the virus is no more a threat um, of the people who have not taken the jab as it is with the people who have taken the jab. Same risks because neither one of them is able to are going to be able to stop the transmission of the virus. Okay, that is if they have the virus. That of course, we'll see in a minute that immunity does prevent that. Many injected people look upon the uninjected as if they pose some kind of threat to the general public, and um, and that they're being irresponsible, when in actuality they're being very responsible and vigilant, and they've done their homework. But the thousands upon thousands of doctors and scientists and other informed people all over the world who are refusing the jab would not be refusing the jab if they were unsure about whether or not they were putting others at risk. I mean, who would do that anyway, and why? Furthermore, death rates are now going down in most places around the world, and many places are calling the whole thing off. And they're saying, hey, you know what? We're tired of all of this COVID thing. And it will be here one way or another. All of those draconian measures we put in place didn't work anyway. So, whatever we do, the virus is going to be there. You've got Great Britain has opened back up again virtually, opened back up and taken the mandates off in many cases, and people are able to circulate around in the society as before. Denmark, Norway, Singapore. These countries have all just said, you know what, we're tired. The people are tired, and the government said, well, we might as well move on and call it a day and just try as far as possible to get on with our lives. And so at the same time, you still have some states in this country, as well as many countries at large, that are continuing with such unnecessary and unscientifically unfounded protocols and mandates and ludicrous measures. And you can see tiny toddlers wearing masks being carried around by their parents, which serves no purpose whatsoever, and mandating that school children get injected when in reality they have almost a 0% chance of contracting the virus. Zero, nearly. Okay? And you see them wearing masks for upwards of 5 and 6 hours at a go inside of schools. That is when the schools are open, and very often the schools are open and shut just continuously. And just ridiculously requiring, and unconstitutionally requiring you to divulge your medical records to attend a concert or a game. This is an invasion of privacy. Needing papers to attend a wedding or go to a restaurant or to travel. There's no excuse for ignorance, people, these days. This is the age of information and the internet. Okay? The voices of whistleblowers from Big Pharma and the government agencies that are involved in all of this are blowing the cover right off of their unscrupulous